Hi and welcome everybody who is tuning in. My name is Alzares Stephens. I am the CMO of Mainframe Society, and today I'll be hosting the third episode of A Diary of a Mainframer. Today we have a really amazing guest. He is an IBM champion, young, I would like to add, security consultant, and 101 of working group chair. He is an amazing friend. I would happily introduce Niall Ashley, everyone.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, pleasure's all mine, man. I'm really happy that you are the third person to come on to this show. And it's been a journey, right? And having you on as a friend as well is a real pleasure. So how do you want to kick this off?
Oh, well, I don't know. I first of all, I want to shout out 7-9s for the Mainframe Barbie t-shirt, repping that, and Kiara for obviously introducing me to the Mainframe Barbie. So a toast to you.
Yeah, I really want one of those shirts, and I've been literally dying to get one. Yeah, looks good.
No, thank you. Yeah,
looks really good.
It.
Okay, so I don't know how we should kick this off. I think we should start from the very beginning, really. So I think
it was a big bang.
It was a big bang.
And from there, all things came forth. Yeah.
It was a big bang. You appeared, and now you're here.
That's it.
Creating an absolute a whirlwind in the industry. I would say so. I think you're a rising star.
Thank you.
You're definitely a rising star. I mean, you already are a star, but I think for everyone, I would love to go personal and understand the journey and why you started on this career path. Because I think for young people now, I think they need to understand the backstory, right?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's not a matter of what you're doing, but why you're doing it, why you're choosing to invest your kind of time and energy in that place, in that job, or that, whether it's volunteering or a hobby. I think for me, the journey really started with a bit of a negative side, of dissatisfaction from my old job, kind of a hopelessness, a lack of direction. Where do I go from here? Quitting a job that I did not enjoy, and I felt had no opportunity to progress. But I was really lucky. I sort of I'd met people who'd pointed me in the direction of BMC software and this kind of mainframe MIT scheme. At the time, I was one of these, kind of ne'er-do-wells who thought that the mainframe was dead and dying, or kind of a legacy. Yeah. I know, I'm sorry. But we sort of, we all learn and grow. And for me, it was learning that, I could not have been further from the truth. And I gave this industry a chance. I wanted a challenge, and I thought, what is more challenging when everyone else is going onto your Java and your web applications? What's more challenging than trying to learn something that's, legacy, and it still has that kind of culture of this is dead, except it obviously clearly isn't. So I pushed myself, and I haven't looked back. BMC software gave me a multitude of opportunities, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And that reaffirmed my sense of, my work ethic and my sense of value. Like I felt like I could bring something to the table despite my last job, and then left to Vertali, and here I am.
That's brilliant. You said you really pushed yourself. I mean, how hard was the struggle, or was it as easy as you thought? What do you think? My issue kind of at the time was I was already struggling with a lot of kind of mental health issues in the background. And when I left this job, I left that because I felt like if I'd stayed there, my situation would have gotten worse. Yeah.
I did not feel like this was helping me. It was a hindrance. So starting this new career, I felt was kind of just what the doctor ordered, really. I needed that sense of, I'm still... there's still a value that I can bring. There's still a talent within me to be found and to be kind of unleashed. And I always pushed myself to learn and grow. And I think, it wasn't just a matter of changing jobs in the same industry, but it was changing industries altogether. It was changing careers. I went from an aeronautical engineering kind of qualification to working on the mainframe in IT, which is, night and day. But it helped me feel like, maybe, I'm much more capable than I gave myself credit for. Just like you said, sort of, we discussed previously about going to the gym, you can be much more capable than you give yourself credit for. You can push more weight than you think your body is ever capable of. And I think that's what I'm trying to do with my brain. I'm trying to learn and grow and keep pushing myself and finding places to provide that value, Yeah,
definitely. And pushing yourself too much, right? Burnouts. How close or how do you handle anything like that? I think you would be a perfect example of being able to handle this, because I never see you stop, really.
Yeah, I don't think if you give yourself, what's the expression, like, if you don't stop drinking, you can never get a hangover. And it's sort of like that. If I don't stop, I never quite feel the tiredness. It's not a healthy coping mechanism, and I'm very aware of that. But I think that is sort of, yeah. When I was at my last job, my last career, I was volunteering in all these employee resource groups. I was supporting the women in kind of engineering. I was doing a lot with mental health and disabilities, and I was really active with charities. And I really enjoyed that, but I did start to burn myself out. And I think I'm in a better place now because I'm in an industry with a lot more flexibility. You don't have to be in the office or at the factory all the time. You can have flexible hours. You can start early, finish early, maybe take an extended lunch, whatever you need, within reason. And also I feel like I have more support. This is an industry where more people will provide more value rather than it being left solely up to you as an individual. We have not just sort of a general community, but we have a Mainframe society. We have these events. You've got your GSE, your IBM TechX, you've got Share, and you've got people collaborating from different companies, even rival companies sometimes. I've worked quite a lot with people from IBM, and I've worked or volunteered with people from IBM, Broadcom, people in sort of different countries, Germany, America, India, and we all working towards the same goal, to a better industry, a better community.
I mean, it's a family, right?
Yes.
I've always found it since I joined this industry, coming from a non-techie kind of background and really just launching myself at it. It's just amazing. I think for people who maybe have felt lost after university, I think this is where you can be found, really. Yeah. And I think that was the beautiful thing of it, right? So that leads me to my next question, really. Your first experience really coming into the Mainframe community.
Do you know what's funny? My first week, in fact, my first day of joining BMC, I attended at the time online, because of COVID, I attended the GSE UK conference. And I think that was, I honestly think there's no better way to start your industry than joining, meeting all these people, even if virtually, meeting all these people, hearing their voices, hearing their perspectives, seeing how much passion everyone has, and learning so much. And then, you still have, I was still in an office, whereas me, working with people who were really compassionate and really caring and supportive. And they'd say, like, what have you learned today? Like we'd go out for lunch together, or would order Subway to the office. And it was just really nice. There was a real sense of community and passion all the way around. Like you say, like a big extended family, a messy, maybe dysfunctional family at times, but one that you can't help but kind of have some, love for despite that. And it was phenomenal. That was the best start I could have envisaged, and I was lucky to have that. And I think the stars really aligned at that point. To have left a career, feeling that sense of, am I doing the right thing? Is this going to be the right place for me? And day one, you have this community, and so it was no wonder I signed up so quickly. I think I attended GSE in November the 1st, I think it was 2021, and then I asked to join the committee, before the end of the month, and I think I was in the committee by February 22. So it didn't take me long to get stuck in.
Yeah, no, and I was in 2022, I believe it was 2022. Best year it was a really amazing year at GSE. But talking about these communities and these user groups, GSE, tell me a bit more about your involvement with them.
So I'm the chairperson of, or one of the two chair people, I should say, of the 101 stream. We're focused primarily on students and trainees, so kind of anyone under 3 years of experience, really. So we want all the content to be kind of introductory level. We want it to be digestible and kind of accessible to people, regardless as to whether they're sort of, maybe they know a bit more about kicks, but they don't know anything about rack F. We want that content to be for those people who, they have maybe some knowledge, maybe they've just done Z Explorer or previously mastered the mainframe. We want to make it so that anyone can join in. And then that will flow naturally to the kind of 102 stream, which, is sort of more of your 2, 3, 4 years of experience in a given area. So, your kind of rack F security or kicks or something. And we kind of fall under that kind of new talent umbrella. That I think it's now being rebranded as Waves, which is fantastic kind of umbrella for our all these trainees, students, and kind of new to Z people. And that's quite great as well because IBM have their new to Z user group, so we can work quite closely with them. We can support unis such as University of Wolverhampton. We can do all of that, and we are planning to do more. And then I kind of in my side hustle, I guess, from GSE is I want to do a lot of kind of community engagement and community sort of events. So we're looking at doing stuff like pub quizzes or game nights. We're looking at doing kind of more ideally in the future more keynotes, more things to stand out, and maybe even we're doing like a little road trip or a little tour across different universities, doing bringing the careers fairs to them, bringing the presentations to them, like we previously done with College of Bedfordshire or Bedfordshire College Group, and they that was a fantastic opportunity, and I'm really grateful to everyone who supported me with that.
I think it's amazing what One-on-One and what the now Waves initiative really wants to do, and I can't really wait to see what actually comes of it all, because it is an exciting time as everything is changing while we're going through kind of an age where everyone is expecting something different now. Everything is changing digitally in the way we want to learn, the way we want to communicate and everything. So tell me how really you've seen this maybe since we joined in 2021 when I think things started to change after COVID, right? The way students interact, maybe young professions want to interact with companies coming into mainframes and coming to these conferences, definitely, because I think that's a huge opportunity to learn. What do you think has been the problem, and how are we going to combat and get new blood into the industry through these initiatives like Waves and etc., like you just said, going around doing road trips? But what has been that initial problem?
I think image has always been a bit of a problem for the mainframe. This idea that it's dead and dying, and I think it's easy to say there's a big responsibility on like IBM to do more kind of PR, but actually I think it's poor when you hear about universities who refuse to kind of acknowledge it. I think there was a IntelliMagic kind of episode that I'd watched recently with Emma Skovgaard, and she'd said, her university, I think it was a lecturer or a professor, had sort of said, you don't use job control language, you don't do this. She was like, yeah, I do. And he was like, well, why would you do that? And she says, I'm doing an internship with this company. And he was gobsmacked that they would still do that. And subsequently, this company she was with, I think, had tried to approach this lecturer, this professor, and say, would you be interested in learning more or teaching about the mainframe? And he point blank refused, as far as I recall. And that was saddening to me because, there's an opportunity to learn, there's an opportunity to sort of have some humility and say, actually, I was wrong. There's so much more to this industry. There's so much more to computer science as a kind of, a space than I thought. And some people have this idea of like, I don't want to learn. I'd rather be blissfully ignorant.
Yeah.
And it was a shame when I approached a lot of universities in the UK and their student unions. And I said, look, GSE have these opportunities. We'd love for your students and your IT kind of computer science faculty to get on board. And we heard nothing. And I think it's easy to say, oh, it's this company or it's this kind of, it's IBM's mainframe, so it's their responsibility. But I think some people are a bit stubborn, a bit ignorant. But I think universities are definitely a place where I think it helps. And even maybe prior to that, college level education, like with Bedford College Group, the earlier we say to people, this is a lucrative and a lasting industry, this is not going anywhere. The talent, the kind of opportunities, the kind of, as I say, the financially, the kind of the incentives there, the opportunities to have flexible hours and working from home, and maybe even bonuses. You've got stuff like bonuses, or I don't know, you might have a canteen with free food or subsidized food. There's all these little things that add up. Medical insurance, it all adds up, and ultimately, this is such a fantastic industry to work in. And I think it'd be good for us to do, whether it's, you know, any company, Vertali, BMC, Broadcom, etc., for us to go to more colleges and then have the students kind of learn a bit more, and then they bring that with them to the universities. And after university lecturers have heard enough years in a row, the mainframe isn't dead, you're wrong. Either that lecturer is going to reasonably say, you know, maybe I was wrong, you know, maybe I'm not out, maybe I am out of touch and the children are right. Or they're, you know, they're going to sort of eventually leave and say, oh, I don't care, new talent come in. And the new lecturer will say, actually, I'm more willing to listen. But I think it starts at a young age. You know, we've got to, you know, we as you know, individuals in this industry know where it stands, and the people we work with, you know, with 20, 30 years of experience, they obviously know where it stands, but those aren't the people we're appealing to. We need to appeal to the next generation. And I think that starts with college really, or school or something around there.
And next step after that?
Yeah, I think the next step is either university or kind of, you know, for those who aren't inclined in that route. So for me, you know, I did an apprenticeship. I think there should be more apprenticeships, internships, graduate kind of schemes. There needs to be more opportunities for people to get hands-on. You know, Z Explorer is great, but what's next, you know? And I think we need to have more publicity of that. I think, you know, the more young people who say, you know, we've got this opportunity, we've had this, you know, this sort of opportunity to grow our talent, and, you know, we're earning money, and we're, you know, going to GSE, and we're going to ... and all these things. You know, I went to Barcelona for this tech exchange and I got to eat tapas. You know, they put that on their Instagram, and other people go, wait, how's he doing that? I want to do that.
Exactly.
And it does go a long way, that social media presence. And it's not an artificial, sometimes you can't always market it. You can't, you know, have IBM necessarily post, look at our trainee eating tapas. It feels a bit weird. But when that individual is posting, and there are many of those individuals posting, it goes a long way, because you're not artificially making that culture. You're proving these people want to be here. They love it, and they're posting on their own terms. That goes a long way.
I think it's really important when it goes to social media and the marketing of anything for a company to maybe get young talent. It's really not coming from the company itself, it's coming from their employees. Always. It always comes from your employees and doing employee advocacy, right?
Yeah.
So it's so important. Okay. So moving on from that section,
advocacy is something that I'm very passionate about. So obviously you're well aware that I do a lot of advocacy on various topics. So I do teaching of STEM, science, technology, engineering and maths. And I teach kind of local young people who go to my Air Cadet Squadron or a local Air Cadet Squadron that I volunteer at. And then I've done a lot of work with mental health charities in the past. You know, I'm a suicide first aid trainer, or at least qualified to deliver that training. So yeah, this is advocacy is something that I'm passionate about on the mainframe and off.
So why? I want to know the why.
Okay.
Why charities? Why the Suicide Prevention Watch? Why do you have that passion?
When I was about 15, I think it was 15, I got my kind of official clinical diagnosis for depression, and then subsequently later in later years anxiety as well. And I think I didn't necessarily feel as supported as I wanted to feel at the time, both by my school. I don't think my family understood. I know that at the time there wasn't as much talk about mental health. You know, it's still maybe misunderstood as it is, you know, still today. And I guess I just felt like I wish someone had got it, you know, had sort of understood and been there, and not necessarily from the standpoint of like, this is a medical practitioner, but just like a person I could talk to, a friend or a kind of confidant, or even like, you know, when you have those lecturers who come into the school and they do a topic on like, you know, why you should consider this career, or why you should maybe think about that hobby, blah, blah, blah. Someone like that who just says, actually, do you know what? You're not alone. Like, you know, there's more people out there, and you don't have to feel like othered, you know, don't have to feel different because of these things.
I think definitely at that time, it was kind of scary to come out as that, you know, like it was really, really maybe not looked down on, but it was, you didn't want to feel different.
And people, I've seen it in media. So like, you know, maybe a Netflix series where people will use the term like, you know, I'm broken. And that sometimes is how you feel like I'm lesser, or I'm different because of these, you know, other people have a kind of a full, happy kind of, you know, mental state. And maybe, you know, I don't. And you do feel kind of different and othered. And I didn't want to make people kind of feel that way. I want people to know that, like, you know, you can live a fulfilling life and have this diagnosis. You can live a fulfilling life, you know, and in spite of, or even, you know, because of like these things, you can still find happiness. You know, you can still find that enjoyment and that kind of I don't know, that aspiration, that thing to look forward to. And I didn't want people to feel like, you know, they weren't heard, they weren't represented, they weren't. There was a lot of that, but that was maybe the why from an emotional standpoint. But also, like, I've always been curious about things, and it's all well and good saying like I have this diagnosis, but what does that mean? How does that affect me? You know, how could other people support me, and how can I support them? And that was why that kind of curiosity and that willingness to learn and grow, that was kind of, you know, combined was what led me to do all these training courses. So Zero Suicide Alliance, you know, e-learning for healthcare from the NHS, you know, the Suicide First Aid, the Assist course. So I've done all these courses that are either nationally or kind of, you know, very like wide scale recognized, you know, and I don't know, I loved learning, and I loved learning that, you know, I've done stuff kind of semi-aligned to that kind of maybe parallel. So like eating disorders, you know, I've done stuff like on kind of training courses on alcoholism and other kind of addictions. And I think it's important that people maybe understand this before they cast judgment, or maybe they make comments. Yeah. You know, it's important that we know things, and it's also like language as well. It's, you know, it's like using the term commit suicide might be seen as, you know, you're committing a crime, you know, you commit a war crime or you commit a faux pas. It's negative, the connotations. And I think it's important that we change that language, because we don't want people to feel worse just for having a thought when we can help them, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think by going through all of that training and learning about these mental health, I hate to call them issues, but mental health
topics,
it helped you overcome your mental health topic?
Yeah, there's a power to knowing more about yourself, to kind of understanding, you know, your own headspace. And, you know, for me, I notice now a lot more, you know, if I'm in a bad mood, I get quiet. You know, I don't lash out, but I sort of recede into myself. I kind of don't really talk, or I just sort of focus on, you know, putting the music on, kind of blaring it so loud that I can block everything else out. And I try to potentially overwork, you know, focus on something that I feel gives me that sense of fulfillment. You know, I've achieved something, so I can feel better about that. But learning, I think, is really important, and I think it's not just the learning but the understanding, because you're not just learning about other people, but you're learning more about yourself, your state, your topic, you know, your topics, your issues, your kind of everything. And I think it's important as well, because when I was volunteering with Papyrus, for example, there was areas that we talk about with attendees at events like, you know, Bromsgrove Pride or Birmingham Pride or other events like, you know, uni kind of college fresh affairs and careers days and stuff. And we would talk about these, you know, there's like a suicide safety plan. So when you know that you're having these sort of thoughts about self-harm or taking your life, you know, how do you react to that? How can you make sure you stay safe? Like, do you tell someone, or do you go somewhere? Do you stop what you're doing and go somewhere where you'd be happier? You know, do you listen to certain songs? And then there was a suicide sort of prevention or suicide safety box, and you fill that with things that cheer you up, like your favorite feel good movie, or, you know, again, an album that really resonates, or a photo of, you know, you and your loved ones. And it was things that would just help you in that moment. And I think even though I didn't necessarily make that box myself, the thought of what would I put in there really made me appreciate certain things that help me, that relieve my stresses and help me kind of ground myself when I'm having those thoughts that kind of, you know, are quite extreme. So I think that's something that I would recommend to anyone who's struggling with, you know, any sort of mental health sort of factor, you know, whether that's depression, anxiety, or something else. And I think it's also useful for anyone who isn't, because you understand part of yourself better. You know, what resonates with me? What do I look forward to? You know, what cheers me up? And yeah, I think those are all great things. I think those are relevant, I say, to everyone. So
yeah. How do you think the support, or do you think mental health is talked about in this industry of mainframes a lot, or do you think it's rather quiet? I think in the most recent years now, mental health has become such a huge thing, right? To always be aware of and to help people on that journey and getting them out of something. But the mainframe industry,
I think, so when I passed my sort of suicide first aid trainer course, so I could deliver that training, I did approach quite a few mainframe companies, and not naming names, that'd be unprofessional, but I got no responses, which was disappointing because I was offering to do it at like no profit, literally just as long as the training materials are covered. And I think a lot of companies, and I spoke to kind of other companies within my local area, and they sort of said, well, we have mental health first aid trained, human resources staff. And I asked them, do you know what the difference between mental health first aid and suicide first aid are? And they didn't. No. And I think there's a lot of problems where people think they know and haven't got the humility to say, I don't know, and maybe I should learn. And suicide first aid is all about the kind of the intervention when someone is on the brink. So it's not necessarily relevant for HR, because generally someone might not be attempting to take their life, at the office, but it is important from the standpoint of you might be able to catch the warning signs, that lead up to that kind of that attempt and that would help prevent an intervention. It's the prevention at that point. And even then, the other thing they say is it teaches you about the postvention. So if someone has died by suicide, how do you statistically, people around them, so in maybe their work community or their friend community, those people are then more at risk of mental health, issues, whether that's self-harm or attempting suicide. So again, we need to be able to discuss postvention. Like as a company, if someone in our company was to pass from, taking their life, what do we do to make this company safer, to make everyone who is now statistically more likely, how do we help them? I think it's an issue that's sort of, there are obviously, the economy is not great. There's a lot of budget cuts in a lot of areas. And I know that it's a very heavy topic. And I think people are put off with this idea that, if we talk about it, it becomes a little bit too real. It's hard to face something as harrowing as the sort of knowing that someone might have taken their own life for a reason we can't necessarily fully comprehend. But I think we have to. We all kind of really have that obligation to learn more so we can prevent it from happening. None of us want someone we know or love to take their own life. I think this industry is, as I say, it's better in the standpoint that we have more freedoms, more flexibilities. If I'm having a stressful day, I can have an extended lunch, maybe work a little bit late or start early the next day to make up for it. So I can have that space. You can't do that in a factory. You can't do that in retail. You can't just stop scanning someone's shopping and say, oh, actually, I'm having a bit of a problem here. Bye. But when as long as someone is supporting a client, or as long as the project work is done by the deadline, we have a little bit more freedom, and that definitely helps. Most companies, I recall, so BMC is a good example. I think IBM do as well. They have employee resource groups, and they do a lot of work with mental health. And I think, as I say, mental health is a real big kind of umbrella, and suicide is an important part of that maybe we put more focus on, as I say, with the suicide first aid training, rather than saying mental health first aider. So, we tick that box. I think a lot of companies they love to say that they've ticked that box, but whether they know how to help people is a whole other thing. And credit where it's due with BMC, for example, when I first joined, that was November. And in the January, so 2 months later, I actually did a session with Papyrus, the suicide prevention charity in the UK, on suicide prevention, talking about language, how do you spot the signs, how do we as a community need to acknowledge this? And it was only a half-hour kind of introductory tutorial, but they were really supportive. And a lot of people tuned into that session, and I believe it was recorded too. And I think that's good because, anything you can do, anything you can learn, really does helps make a difference.
Should we be having more sessions at conferences around mental health?
I don't know if we necessarily need to tackle it quite so heavily, but no. I think little things really help. So when I was at Bromsgrove Pride, and I know Chester Pride, who my best friend is one of the head kind of volunteers at, or two of my best friends, him and his fiance. volunteer at, their thing is to have like a quiet space. It's an area where people can reflect, they can sit down, it's away from all the noise and the hubbub. And I think as a conference, maybe we should do that. We should just have a room that's just there for people to talk and mingle, or just sit and almost find some inner peace for a little while. Because these conferences can be really stressful for people with anxieties, or who have social kind of, who aren't as comfortable with these big social events. Maybe they're more introverted. They might want to learn, and they want to be at this conference to learn and maybe even to network, but within reasonable doses. Not
exactly
5, 6, 7 hours in a row. So I'm not saying we necessarily need to have like a suicide prevention talk for 1 hour. But we can do little things. We can have, like at the train station, we can have these messages that it's all going to be okay, and there's things to look forward to. And maybe we have people who are trained on it. So like myself, you wear lanyards, and you can say, if anyone needs anything, I'm always here. Maybe at the start of the conference, we say, if anyone is struggling for whatever reason, we have these pastoral people. I think that's true of any event, though. I don't recall actually one conference I've been to where there's necessarily a focus on that
Definitely
pastoral side.
Yeah,
I understand that there is a level of we want people to be independent and to know if they need help, that they have them seek it out themselves. But there's no harm in saying, by the way, we also have these people who are trained and these people who are here to listen.
Yeah.
So I think it's a give and a take. We can't enforce it and change the whole agenda around it, because it's still obviously a conference about mainframes and enterprise IT. But with that caveat that we can do little things on the side that at least help.
Definitely. You touched on social anxiety and young people, especially coming to these conferences with anxiousness, which I think may be a product of going through the period of COVID.
Absolutely, yeah. Did not help things.
But yeah, go into that a little bit more, because I remember, because I came on 2022, that was literally the first year back. I met a lot of students, and I think they were really affected by it. Moving forward, how do we help them ease back in?
I think one of the things we should do, and I've been quite vocal about this, quite adamant, is that I think we can't drop them in at the deep end, right? So this is a conference where they're not going to know anyone. So maybe we do introductory sessions where we kind of introduce them to at least one person. Maybe at GSE, for example, it's the stream leads, the committee members, the chair people. So they at least know one person in the room, even if that person is, holding up the sign that says you've got 10 minutes remaining. At least they know one person. I think, we at 101, we're planning ideally to do something like, a kind of a workshop for the first few hours, maybe on the Monday. So we have a workshop that would allow people to kind of mingle and collaborate and work together, and maybe even meet, even if not other people, for example, a student meeting someone from IBM, but maybe they might meet another student, and that builds a connection then for life, where they've met someone from a different, different educational establishment, but they then have that person that they can liaise with. They can talk on LinkedIn or Instagram or WhatsApp. I think those things really help. And then I think a big one is kind of, at your dinner, where you might have a table, and you have a lot of companies, so a lot of tables where they split into their cliques, their little kind of groups. So you've got your table for company A, and your table for company B, and your table for maybe a stream. So maybe you've got your security table, and it's different people who pull together because of a shared area of expertise. They're all subject matter experts in X, KICS, for example. I think we don't want to have the students kind of completely sort of on their own table and unable to mingle, feeling like they're othered. But also we don't want to have it where they're maybe kind of 2 people to a table of 10, where they feel like so much of a minority. They have nothing to kind of, what do they talk about? Maybe there's even language barriers and sort of, cultural barriers, age barriers, all sorts. So I think maybe we find that way of kind of introducing them slowly but surely. So we build up to it. Maybe we start off with, a table of sort of, I don't know, eight students, 2 adults, 2 kind of, experienced individuals, seasoned professionals, whatever phrase you want to use. Then we work towards 5 and 5, and then we maybe do like 7 and 3 the other way. So it's 7 adults and 3 students. And But again, we need to find a healthy balance and not drop them in day one. You are the minority on this table. These people are all going to talk about their mortgages and their their BMWs and all this, and you can't drive, you can't drink, you've not got a house. There's nothing
it's intimidating, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's really intimidating.
And you need to find those commonalities. The reason I get on so well with you and the reason I get on so well with many of my peers is we have things in common. Some of my colleagues don't play video games, but that's fine because they might have something else that we talk about. We have the same sense of humor, or maybe they're both into football, or maybe, etc. So I think it's important to have those commonalities.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on to 2024 conference GSE, biggest things you're kind of looking forward to?
Oh, the whole thing.
The whole thing.
I mean, I'm biased. I'm part of the kind of organizing umbrella. I'm obviously
definitely
101. But I think the pub quiz is going to be really fun. We're looking at doing that in a different format this year. We really want there to be, so it's not just kind of the conference and then drinks and then dinner. We want there to be kind of entertainment, especially entertainment where people kind of get brought together. They can kind of cheer together or kind of boo and hiss together, and they can laugh together. And I think, it's important to, again, especially considering, you might have students there who are 16, 17, who haven't, aren't old enough to drink, or maybe culturally, maybe they're Muslim, they don't drink, I don't drink and I'm not Muslim. So I think there needs to be things that people can still feel included in.
Yeah.
And then we're hoping at doing little things that are different. There are plans behind the scenes at a kind of afternoon tea, which is just a little bit of fun. It's something nice, something a bit quirky. We're looking at doing kind of obviously we've got lunch and learn sessions, and again we want those to be in a format where people engage with one another as well as with the kind of say the panel or the kind of speaker. We want it to be an engagement of the whole room. And I think those are what really what really kind of bring me joy is that it's people really coming together, and then that those people have connections for life. So I met, for example, Lucas, who I'll name drop here, but I met Lucas at GSE 22, and then I met him again I think at 23, and then I met him at I met him again at the IBM Tech Exchange, which was 2 months later. And Lucas said, any chance I can, have you guys got a plan for dinner? Any chance I can join you guys? And we had him join the GSE committee, and he was lovely. And now we've all got those connections between, with Lucas, between us with Lucas.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
brilliant. I love that.
I think it's amazing how it's a big community, kind of, right? It's a big community, but it's small in the sense of you can find connections with connections with connections with connections.
Tight knit.
Yeah. It's tight. That's it. It's tight, and I think you make friends. You make friends for life, right? I think a majority of my friends are now mainframers, right? Now, I never thought that would be the case, but it seems that it is, and it's the most beautiful thing ever. I mean, the friendships are amazing. You make a friend all over in Europe or America. It's amazing. And just like Lucas, for example, you just start meeting at conferences and then you just bump into each other. I think that's the great thing, and start going out for dinners, go have a drink or something. And I think that's really nice, making those long-lasting relationships. Right?
And I think the thing that kind of frustrates me is actually sometimes how far apart we are. Because if we were closer, I'm sure, I might say to Lucas, do you want to meet up and do this? Or do you want to, I don't know, go out for a drink, or do you want to go out for dinner? And I think, that's why these conferences or kind of events, whether they're kind of technically conferences or not, but they're just fantastic because they really do give you the opportunity to coalesce with other people, like-minded people. And it's fantastic. I've met so many people now, and also from such a wide range of countries because, without sounding too ignorant, when I was, before this career, when I was at my last job, I was, working with sort of all British people, all people local to that area. In my preceding jobs, I worked in retail, again, all local people. When I was at school, all local people. So you meet people from those regions, but you don't meet people from the industry or the wider community.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because, we're all doing similar work. We're all kind of working, for example, whether you're installing sub-assemblies in an aircraft with, you know, if you're doing that in England, or if you're doing that in France, or if you're French, or you're British, or you're all, you know, German, etc. You're all doing that same job. You've all got something kind of, at least one commonality, one thing in common.
Exactly.
So it's nice when you get those opportunities to really meet them and share in these experiences.
Yeah. Okay. So future aspirations.
Oh, how many? How much time have we got left?
I mean, we can do this all day, Niall. We can do this all day. Short term, long term.
So I guess short term, there's things I want to tick off, like learning how to install products. So like Z Secure and Z Trust. I want to be more than just a security kind of admin touching on security engineering. I want to know kind of how these software kind of interface with the mainframe, become a bit more like versatile. And then the next kind of main objective really is also to do security assessments. So testing kind of our internal system and maybe doing little checks on client systems, just to sort of gauge, you know, my own understanding of these assessments. And again, that would make me better in security, but better minded and conscious of security kind of in the future. I've got documents that I want published. So I know Tish Talks Tech had her podcast and I discussed that. There's all these documents I'm writing, kind of education on basically introductory RACF security. So again, I want to publish those. You know, there's little things, as I say, I want to do all throughout the kind of year, maybe next year and a half. You know, obviously, like long term, you've got stuff like, you know, getting married, you know, having kids or something. But I think the long term, I really don't know, because I love teaching, but I don't know if I'd want to be like a full-time teacher. You know, maybe I do that kind of on a contractual basis. I do like a little bit here, a little bit there for somewhere like RSM Tech or Verhof. Maybe, you know, especially because I don't think they'd want someone with as little years of experience as me. They want me to have a bit more under my belt. But equally, you know, there's other things I want to do. I want to become really good at security assessments, maybe start like going into security pen testing. Yeah. You know, I'd love to be a security kind of SME. Like I'd love to be like a Mark Wilson, but you know, unfortunately I wasn't born in Smethwick. So, you know, sort of started off at a disadvantage. But I think, there's loads of long-term kind of goals that I've got, little kind of long-term goals. I just want to be the best kind of me, really.
Best version of yourself.
And really. I think that's the important thing. I'm really happy now that I'm at a stage where I don't think of it like I want to be him, or I want to be her, or I want to be the next X person.
No.
I think of it like I want to be this person who, you know, who knows this much kind of RACF confidently. Maybe they know so much of ACF2 or TSS. Maybe they have started looking into sysprogging, or, you know, but I feel like I want to be that person who, as I grow, I naturally form new objectives. And then by the time I look at myself 10 years later and kind of reflect how far I've come, I can feel like I am the best version of me. I'm the better version of Niall, rather than, you know, I am halfway to becoming Mark Wilson, which is, you know, a bar that it's an immeasurably high. You know, Mark's very successful, and I think setting that kind of a bar is obviously dangerous, because you feel like you're always living in the shadow. So I'm trying to be happy being me and being happy with my journey. No, thank you.
You should be. Your legacy going into the future, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind in the mainframe industry?
I think in one word, positivity. So when it comes to kind of culture, you know, community, I want to be, you know, not just an IBM champion, but a champion of the individuals, of the people. You know, I want to be able to say, Emma did this, or Grace did that, and you know, I've given them a shout out on LinkedIn, or I've kind of, you know, we've made some time to kind of maybe do a session for them. Maybe I've helped them build a session for GSC, so now they're getting into speaking, and they then have that public speaking kind of career journey in the future, where they start doing more talks at more events. I love the idea of helping people grow and thrive, like I'm trying to grow and thrive myself.
I think it's part of that kind of growth for yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's enough spotlight to share. You know, there's not like a limelight that's finite, and if you don't have it, someone else is going to steal it from you. It's not.
Oh, grow together.
Exactly.
Right.
And we all grow in different ways. You know, we can start kind of parallel. Maybe we're both doing security, and then we can go down different paths. So I go through, you know, I specialize in RACF, or RACF maybe conversion between RACF and TSS. Someone else does RACF and ACF2. And then maybe we come back together in terms of being kind of SMEs of RACF alongside another, you know, enterprise security manager or external security manager. And then we kind of work around that. We kind of, maybe again, like I branch off into losers it was directions with, I learn a little bit of kicks, I learn a little bit of DV2, and they do learn a bit about ZOS and maybe ZVM. And I think that there's no reason we can't share these things. And I think, equally, you can start at different points. You can start saying, I was I did an aeronautical engineering qualification, and this person was a student of, I don't know, psychology or whatever. And ultimately we both ended up coming towards the mainframe, and maybe we both did security. But that's it's positivity, because I feel like we all want to feel proud of ourselves. And I think sometimes it's hard to feel that sense of, have I really achieved? Am I, maybe, lacking in confidence? So I think someone else giving you that pat on the back and, you've really done well is good. And then positivity in terms of education. I think, I want to do more in education, whether that's publishing some materials or delivering actual training, either live, kind of in person or online or recorded. But I want people to be able to learn and grow. I want there to be that sense of, there are free materials and there's an opportunity to learn. And if you want to, this is going to be the kind of helping hand, the guardrail really to help you kind of guide you through that journey. So I just want the industry to be in the best state it can be, both culturally, kind of community, training, recognition, etc. I just want that positivity really. And I think I'm lucky that, we're an industry where, people like Shari and Libby and, from IBM and then obviously people in Vertali, people like yourselves and Angie from Mainframe Society, everyone's so supportive. There is a real sense of positivity. You don't feel like one light, in kind of darkness. You're like stars where you kind of cumulatively light up the sky.
That's a lovely way of putting it. I like that.
Poetic.
Very poetic. Okay, so I don't want to drag this out too long because we can always do more. We can always do more. I don't know how much SD card I have left, But yeah, being a young IBM champion, what's a piece of advice in one statement you can give someone who is trying to thrive for that, someone who's trying to drive for that sense of success? How do they? What's that advice?
I think I'd say from a personal perspective, just apply yourself wherever you can. Put your hand up, volunteer, sort of ask the question sort of thing. Always don't pass up an opportunity really, because I feel like there are times where, you are going to look back and knowing someone else has taken that opportunity and you didn't, you're going to think, oh, I wish I'd done that. It sounds amazing. They went to America and they had barbecue and they met, the Lakers. I think that's a basketball team or something. But yeah, you might go, oh, wow, the Lakers.
The Lakers.
That's fantastic. And you're going to think, oh, I had that opportunity to go to America and meet the Lakers, assumedly a basketball team. Maybe not. And you can say like, oh, I missed that because I didn't put my hand up. And sometimes the opportunity was already funded. You just didn't want to, I don't know, you felt a bit uncomfortable going out your own home, leaving that comfort zone, leaving the familiarity.
Yeah.
Obviously the kind of caveat to that is don't risk burnout. So don't overwhelm yourself. Don't take on too much. Be very reasonable. Be very kind of understanding of your own limitations. Not to say that you can't push yourself, but obviously the human body can only be awake for that many hours, And that's from a personal perspective. From a community perspective, surround yourself with people who will support you. It's hard sometimes to look back on your own achievements and think, I've really done something good here. Like, I'm really proud of this. Like Tish Leticia earlier, talking about my documentation, the stuff I've been working on, really supportive. The community stuff I do, the engagement, I've got Catherine Dupont and Libby and Gracia and Shari Kara who are posting and commenting about that on LinkedIn and on their kind of IBM New to Z user group, and everyone's so supportive. And then I've got people at work, so I've got Mark, and I've got Leanne, and I've got Chris, and I've got people from Mainframe Society, so yourself and Angie and Henry, and everyone is so supportive. And when you don't feel like you've achieved something, knowing that someone, having someone else remind you of what you've done and how far you've come, and that they're proud of you, even if you're not proud of yourself, it goes an immeasurably long way. So just surround yourself with people. Stephen Purver is a really nice guy, and he's really supportive, and he's always cheerleading me, and
he's an amazing guy.
Oh, fantastic. And I cannot get enough of that level of positivity, because if you're having a bad week, sometimes you only look at the negative, and you kind of you've got this blinkers on your eyes like a horse, and you just can't see all the positives, all the achievements around you. And that one person can stand in the way and say, turn your head, look at what you've done. That's what you need. Yeah.
Okay. Any last words?
Oh God, any last words? Viva la revolution. I don't know. I mean, I'm just, thank you, really. I think this is a fantastic opportunity. I've got big, I'm in the shadows, the footsteps of Cameron and Rebecca, but I'm really grateful to be here. I'm really grateful that you sort of chose to have me as your kind of interviewee, and I can't wait to see the future of Mainframe Society. I mean, tune in here because it's only going to get better.
Thank you very much, Niall.
My pleasure.
Look, finishing off the show, do you have a question that we can ask the next guest who's on the show?
Without knowing who the guest is, I'll have to make something vague.
Yep.
I'd probably ask, what is something you're very, very proud of? Maybe your proudest achievement in this industry. Obviously, how did you do that? But also, I guess the extension to that is, how can other people have a similar achievement? How can you say to other people, this is what I did, now you can do the same. You can go on and succeed in that same sort of way. Because I think, like we said earlier, there's enough spotlight to go around, and your crowning achievement may have been 10 years ago. For someone else, that's their future. So I think, what's your most prideful achievement? Kind of how did you get there, and how would you suggest other people do the same?
Thank you so much, Niall.
3 questions, because I just can't follow instructions.
No, that was perfect. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to A Diary of Your Mainframer, episode 3. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night.